Hey guys, Matt again. We're here on part 2 of the CTS 3.6 liter timing chain job, and basically we're at the point where we're going to start taking the chains off, and then we're going to do a comparison and see the diameter of stretch in the chain difference between the new one and the old one, and then we're going to reinstall the chains. I'm going to show you guys all the timing marks and make sure that they're clearly visible to you, and then show you which order to install the chains, and then we're going to break up into the third part and we're going to show you how to reinstall everything that you took apart in part 1, put in reverse order, and then a few installation tips to make sure you don't have any leaks or any other issues, and some small tips to make things easier for you. So stay tuned. Here's part 2. Enjoy. So whenever I do one of these timing chain jobs, I always like to illustrate how much the chains actually stretched before I actually put the new chains in. So what I'll do is I measure them against the old chains and see as far as length goes, but here's a good indicator when you just pull it apart, or if you take a valve cover off just to peek at it. I mean, not necessarily that it's that. You see how they're not even barely staying on the sprocket because there's so much distance between each link, it can't comfortably relax into those grooves. So it's damn near at the point where it could almost jump the chain if it hasn't already. I don't know, but that's just a good indicator that, you know, you got some definite stretch going on in there. Hope you guys are picking that up. Oops. So now I'm just going to take a rag and kind of throw it down here, stuff it up in this chain a little bit, and then back in here, just to kind of keep some of the debris from scraping off this timing cover from falling down into the oil pan. Keep the less crap out of there we can, keep the oil system from clogging up, especially with the variable valve timing. Oil pressure is pretty crucial. Okay, so before I tear anything off, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and scrape all this gasket material off and get all this crap out of the way. I use these super scrapers. I guess they're made in USA for one. For two, they work good. They save me a lot of time and a lot of money on razor blades. I mean, you can just get in here and just scrape this crap right off. I'm not even putting any pressure to it. And this thing's actually, well, I probably use it every week. You know, obviously doing this for a living. So as far as keeping it sharp, I haven't sharpened it yet, but apparently if you send it back to the company, they'll sharpen it for free. And as affordable as they are, they'll pay for themselves in the cost of razor blades in a short amount of time. Razor blades do have their place, but not as much as they used to in my toolbox. So as far as this goes, saves me a lot of time, and it doesn't seem to dig into the aluminum when you're on softer surfaces. I use them on heads, blocks, whatever. So just a little pointer for you guys. They're called super scrapers. It's a carbon tipped scraper. You just keep wiping it off and keep on scraping. So again, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this debris on top of that valve cover right here, and make sure it doesn't fall into the engine. So that's just the loose stuff, for example. Now I'll go through and hold this down and vacuum while I scrape, and it'll pull everything before it falls into the engine. And it'll save it from getting crap into the crankcase. Alright, so now you can see all the crap that didn't get into the motor here. Thankfully. Just got little bits here and there. Just look it over real good, make sure nothing fell in there as much as possible. Get the RTV off the bottom. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and pull off this first chain here, but first we're going to go ahead and line up the timing marks to make sure that they're where they should be before I get too carried away pulling chains off, because you don't want to be rotating the engine once the chains are off, if you can help it. Alright, now I'm going to rotate the engine clockwise. So I reinstalled the crankshaft bolt for the dampener, the crank pulley, and I'm going to rotate this engine over. We can watch this timing chain, how close it is to slipping on them sprockets. It might even slip right now, I don't know. Well, we're going to turn this engine over a few times until we get the timing marks where we want them to be at. You can even see down here, this chain's barely even staying on the sprocket, it's so stretched out. Look at all that slop in there. It's just too much. Alright. So on these 3.6s, they're quite the gem. When you look at the engine from the front on these CTSs, a lot of them I do on the Acadias and other vehicles too, but if you're looking at the engine from the front, this is the right side. Now this one has an R for R, and this has an L for L. Not all of them have that. Looks like just the intake sprocket does, but a lot of the transverse styles don't have that on there. But you can look here on these timing marks and you see L, and then down here's R. So this side here is always going to be the right, which is bank 1, I believe, and that is usually in the back against the firewall in the front wheel drive, all wheel drive setup. And then this here is always going to be the right side here on the passenger side. So a firewall and passenger side on these 3.6 is going to be bank 1, and it's also going to be the right side. So you're going to be using these timing marks right here. Now, if you want, you can go in and check and count your chain, links between there and see if it jumped or if it's just out of time. The only code I had on this vehicle was multiple misfire, probably because the ignition system was in poor condition. Also, the injectors, I believe, has some issues, and I ran a lot of injector cleaner through here, and then I also went through and did some cleaning on the induction system. But see, on the left side here, you're going to have your left side timing marks: right, left, left. Where's the right timing mark? Oh, that'd be right there, actually, because there's 2 timing marks on every sprocket. So we got one there and you got one there. Just make sure you're using the right ones. You want to use the right here and the left on this side. Then also there's your third chain that ties everything together on the bottom. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of guides and chains and tensioners and sprockets and whatnot. But we're gonna go ahead and start tearing this stuff apart, and then we'll just show you guys piece by piece how we take this apart, chain by chain and sprocket by sprocket. Or guide, I mean, sorry. Hopefully you want to have the Woodruff key for the crank sprocket pointing upwards. So if you look down here on the side, they already marked the timing mark in yellow there. So that's the crankshaft timing mark. We're going to set up this first chain. After we take everything off, we're going to set up this first chain, set up the second chain, then you rotate the engine to align the crankshaft marks to this sprocket to align to the third chain. So we'll get there. So I don't exactly advise that you get a tool you can put on the end of the camshafts to hold it, but I just do this, keeps these hold it in place, so one's holding the other. So I don't know, it's been working for me for years. I'm not really gonna go out and buy a specialty tool that I used for 3 years and then throw in a garbage can, basically, because nobody wants to pay to do it anymore. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. Things first, I'm gonna go ahead and take off this first tensioner. She might get a little crazy here for a minute. Alright, tensioner's loose. I'm gonna take this bolt out and just let her loose there. It's gonna leak some oil, so get ready for that. If you're worried about it catching with a rag, I'm gonna degrease the motor, so I'm not too worried about it. I just kind of set all the parts here so I can set them out, roughly where, give myself an idea where to put everything so that it goes back together faster. So you're gonna want to pull this bolt out for this guide right here, and then go ahead and pull these 2 bolts out, and your chain should be free. And then we can start working on the, actually I can get it off now. I'm going to set these up so that we can see. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take and hang these up on here, and then we're going to hang the new chain next to it, and we're going to see the difference in stretch. I'm going to kind of keep these bolts because some of the new tensioners and guides don't come with new bolts, neither do the tensioners, so try to keep all the bolts you can from this. Okay, so now there's 2 bolts on this guide right here. You want to take those 2 out, one 10 mil, another 10 mil, and then down here there's another guide, there's 2 13s. See those? Try some light down here for you guys. 2 13s on that guide, and then there's 2 10 millimeters on this tensioner. You're going to take all that loose, the chain will come loose, and then we'll start working on taking this first chain out, primary chain, to bank 2. Like I said, you don't want to lose these bolts. Hold on to all the bolts you can. This guide kind of just rolls like this underneath the chain. There you go. And then Oh, we're actually gonna have to take the tensioner all the way loose to get that off. There's the tensioner down there, 210 millimeters. There you go. Let's kind of wiggle it back and forth to crack it loose because there's a gasket on the back here that kind of sticks. Especially if your motor is really sludged up, you're gonna have a lot of carbon and crap from the crankcase not breathing properly too. Now you should be able to remove the chain. And we'll hang that one up too. Now we're going to get in here, we're going to remove this tensioner right here. Like I said, kind of work it back and forth so it'll come loose. I have to back this bolt out a little bit yet. Okay, there we go. So make sure these tensioner heads don't come popping off and fall down in the motor too. Because I had one where the whole thing came grenading out and springs come flying out. Luckily, I caught it before I went into the engine. Plenty of thread locker on that one. Like I said, kind of line these up so it makes it easier for you to put it back together later. There you go, the chains are all loose. This guy kind of just wraps the chain around the backside there. Okay, now that you got all that stuff off, you get this last chain off, we'll do a stretch measurement here. So pretty much if you're doing this job, you should have an intake gasket, just because it ain't worth risking it. These are guides. We'll just set these out here and we'll match them up to the ones that we're going to be replacing. Here's another guide. Okay, and here's the O-ring kit for that water outlet. There's an O-ring there. There's the part number for it. GM part number 12584040. And then here's the other gasket, GM part number 12566429. And that's going to be for the water outlet O-ring. And then that other kind of grommet gasket that stuffs into that housing is a little bit of a embossment that it sits into. Okay, here's another guide. And here's another guide. These are the tensioner guides. And then here's the kit actually. So this is what comes with the kit. So if you get the kit, which is, let's see, must be this first part number, I'm not really sure. Oh, right there, GM part number 12693218. This basically comes with two bills. Comes with everything that you need that the technicians would basically use in the shop if they were doing a warranty job. So if you were working in a General Motors shop somewhere in the country and the car needs warranty or a job done, this is the kit that GM will give you. Now, what this comes with is, sorry, I got more stuff in here. Valve cover gaskets. Of course, you want to replace those. Okay, so we got this gasket. I call it the satellite gasket. You'll see why when I go to clean it later. Clean up. It goes on the back side of the timing cover. Basically, intercepts the water jacket from the timing cover and the water pump to the block. Front main seal to the crankshaft pulley. And then there's 4 of these smaller seals like this. Those are for your oil control valves. And then you got these gaskets in here, these flat metal ones that are for the timing chain tensioners that seal them up against the block so you don't lose oil pressure. And then inside here we got tensioners wrapped up real nicely so I don't know if it's broken or something, I guess. Here's the tensioner. I'm sure this is another tensioner. Yep, there's a bottom tensioner. And then here's the third tensioner. Oh, this is actually the bottom tensioner, so it has the guide built into it. And then here we have, this is the whole rest of the kit here. It's an empty box now. This is the 3 timing chains. So what we're going to do is take these chains, get this bag out of here. We're going to take one, there's 3 chains in here. There's 2 long ones and a short one. So we're going to put the long one here. We're going to grab this other short one. So we're going to go over here and we're going to do a measurement on the difference between lengths from the old chain to the new chain. Okay, so let's set this here. So we're going to slide this chain down, slide this one over. Now you can see exactly how much that chain is stretched out over the course of time. Using fluid oil quality, high miles, a lot of hard accelerating, stuff like that. I'm not sure what exactly wrecks these chains, but there's all kinds of theories on it. It doesn't really matter. Whoops, I'm gonna keep that one on there. Okay, I'll take these two chains off, and I'll put one of these new ones on here in the middle of these two so we can get a good dramatization of how much these chains are actually stretched. So there you go. That's how much these chains actually stretch. Sorry, I don't know if the lighting's messing with this thing or you guys can see that pretty good. It's quite a bit. I mean, if you figure two chains stretch that much and then you got a third chain that's stretched as well, I mean, that's quite a bit of difference. And you can see, like, in the pattern of the chain, it's two different styles of chain. This is the old style, obviously this is the new one. I'm not saying it's any better, but it's definitely a different style. And what I believe, looking at some of the parts after they're reboxed by GM, they're just a Chloe's timing kit. So if you don't want to buy one at the dealer, you can get one at the parts store. But the price the dealer gets them in bulk, I doubt you're going to touch the price that they got them at when you go to buy them at a parts store versus at the dealer. So I don't know, that's your call. Alright, I'm going to start putting these chains on the sprockets here. So here's one of the new chains. Just two pink marks on there. Go to the bottom is the yellow mark. So what you want to do is make sure that these two are on the camshafts. So slide them up on the sprockets here. Oops. And then, oops, there we go. You want to make sure you got these in the right position. So this is the left bank, that's the right bank. Okay, I got to turn this one cog. So I did not check the timing before I pulled it apart. I just seen that the chains were stretched and I realized that it was messed up. So whatever, it's going to be done regardless. Actually, before you put these on both sprockets, you want to get this sprocket behind here on. You might have to actually do it like this. Just get that chain in there behind the sprocket. There you go. And then stick that up on there just to hold it for now. This is your window here for your timing mark, this little hole right here. So what you want to do is you want to turn this sprocket until, oh, the chain's too tight. You want to turn that sprocket until the timing mark lines up with that window. And then you'll know that that's where the yellow mark should be on the chain. So this is what you want it to look like when you look through that window. You want to see the yellow link inside there, or you can look underneath here. You see that the yellow link is lined up with that hole. Sorry, that's really bad lighting, but now you can see that yellow link back there. You want to make sure that when you look through there, you see it dead center. And that means that you're in time right there. Now we just got to get these camshafts lined up. So just a quick review of what all comes in that kit. Here's the gasket I was saying, looks like a satellite gasket. That goes on the back of the timing cover to seal up the water pump. This is the crankshaft seal. These are the 4 oil control solenoid seals. All those pound in just like a seal, like this front main crankshaft seal. And these are the metal gaskets that the timing chain tensioners match up to. You just put them up to the back of the tensioner and you'll see. I'll show you real quick. Here's this one. You just grab one of these, which is probably this one. You line it up on there. Come on. Okay, here we go. Line that up on there and then put the bolts through, and the bolts will actually thread into those little divots in there. And it will hold the gasket in these guides for initial startup is put a little bit of grease on there so that they don't start up dry and wear into the guides or right away and score them or something. I don't know, it's just a precautionary measure. And then on these bolts I put a little dab of thread locker on each one just so they don't back out, because it's a lot of work to get back in here. So we're gonna cover my, squares, all my bases, and put a little thread locker on there. So this guide's just basically gonna go right over the chain like this. And then you just bolt it down. I got my thread locker on my bolts already. I got grease on the slides, on the nylon part of it. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and start these bolts. Alright, so just triple checking my timing marks here. When you're doing this side on the driver's side, it's gonna say exhaust right here for the exhaust cam. There's a timing mark right there. This says right. We want to be on the left. So make sure you're not lined up with this. You're next to the L. There's a timing mark there. Make sure that's lined up. This one says intake here, timing mark here. That's wrong, that's only for the right side. So if you want to use the left side, there's an L mark here, timing mark there. Make sure your chain's lined up there, you should be good to go. And then down here at the bottom, you just want to go down here and you want to go ahead and triple check. Make sure that you got your timing mark right down here too. So we'll shine some light back here. We're going to look through this hole. You can see that, yes, there's a yellow link right there. There's a gray one next to it. There's a gray one next to it. You can see both pins through the hole and right down the center of the link. That means you're in time. I just stuffed the rig in here for temporary just to kind of hold this into place while I made sure I got the marks right. And then now I'm going to slide the guide in here. Once you have the guide in place, it pretty much won't jump time anymore. And then after that, you can put the tensioner in. Remember to put some lubrication on the slide here, some grease or something, and then thread locker on the threads. Now this guide's kind of a pain to get in here, so what you want to do is you want to take and pull it up high like this, and then start it on the chain. And then you want to get it in the groove if you can, because it'll make the chain not so tight or uncomfortable in there. And then once you do that, you can kind of weasel it in there. Let's see here. Pain in my ass. Right. Get started here. I might have to use 2 hands. So before I set the tensioner and let it loose here, a lot of times I like to just go over and make sure I triple check my timing marks. Still in there, looks like it's on. Left mark, left mark. And then I actually ended up taking this guide right here loose to get this guide in. So I tightened that one up first, and I shouldn't have. You actually have to put that on second. I just took the bolts loose and it slid back far enough to be able to. And then make sure you double check and triple check your timing marks, because my timing jumped after I took that guide loose. So make sure you triple check that before you put the tensioner, and then get in there with your razor blade or whatever and scrape this. Try not to scratch it, but get all the gunk and crap out of there like that from not changing the oil, that black stuff. You want to get that as much of that out of there as you can. If you brake clean some of it out there too, that's not going to hurt nothing. Okay, so as you can see, here's the tensioner. There's the gasket. You can see it lines up with that teardrop shape on the tensioner. And then the open port right there. Like I said, if you screw these bolts in, those thread right into the gasket and hold the gasket in place for you while you install it. So just thread those in a little ways, and then that'll hold the gasket in. Okay, now what you want to do is triple check your timing marks before you pull the pin on the tensioner, and then take a wrench by hand and make sure you go over all these, make sure that they're good and snug. You don't want to crank them, strip them out, but you just want to make sure they're good and snug so they're not going to come loose, and the thread locker holds them in place where they're supposed to. Triple check my timing marks, everything looks good. I'm going to pull the pin. There we go. Sometimes I just pull on that a little bit just to make sure it's tight, but it should be good to go. So this one right here in particular is going to line up with, there's a mark on here on the arrow right there. So that's going to go on that mark there. Sorry, I'm trying to do this one-handed. It's kind of weird. Alright. Oops. Okay, so that goes on there. There's an arrow on there. I don't know if you guys can see that. I just highlighted it with my paint marker so that I won't mess it up. And then you'll line it up there. Then you want to get your crank on board. So I messed this up already. This is what this quick sequence this goes on. It goes on like this. And then this should line up to your crankshaft down here. So turn it a little bit to get it to line up. You don't want to be turning it a lot. Just one cog maybe. Don't be forcing nothing. Just turn it real gently. So I'm using a wrench, not a breaker bar. Right there, that's all I need. It's right on the money. Okay, so I got a mark here. I got a mark here. And I got a mark down here. So we're gonna roll with that. Okay, so timing marks are on par. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this guide in here. I lubricated it. I got a thread locker on my threads. Installation tip for these: just pull the bolts out a little bit so that you can roll it around the chain like that. Sorry. And then that should be good there. Triple check your timing marks. Looks good down there on the crank. Looks good here. Looks good here. So we're gonna go ahead and snug this down a little bit, and then we're gonna throw our guide in here. Just gonna wipe this down one more time. Or our tensioner, sorry. Tensioner. We'll put a little thread locker on the thread, sorry. Yeah, I guess I should have said this earlier, but this is the tensioner for the chain that runs the two chains together, like the correlation chain, I guess you'd call it. It's kind of bigger and bulkier. The other one for the other side of the engine here is more of a triangular shape. You guys can see that. And then the third tensioner here is a little bit different than both of the other two. So this one will actually go over here. Yeah, just so you guys got kind of a rundown on which tensioner goes where, because I know it get confusing once you take 3 different ones off. So you want to make sure that you don't triple check all your timing marks. Mine are all good, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the pin here. And then just make sure it pulls the chain tight, give it a little push there. Should be good. And then the spring tension will hold it until the oil pressure takes over. As far as that goes, this guide's tight, these 2 bolts. You go ahead and tighten those down with a wrench by hand just to make sure that they're tight. And I also thread locked all 4 of those. As far as this guide goes, they didn't provide me with that guide, so I don't know if they just don't change it, because I know it goes into the oil pump, and I've read some stories about people taking those bolts out, putting it back in, and the oil pump loses oil pressure and it's leaking out somewhere around this gasket because you loosened it and then retightened it. So maybe they recommend that you don't. When I looked at it, it wasn't even worn hardly at all. It's basically level with the rest of it, and the chain wasn't even riding on this outside edge. But I just pre-lubricated it again because of lack of oil on startup, so I just did that as a precautionary measure. I think it'll be okay. We're going to move on to this third chain now. This tensioner off and the chain's not on yet. I'm going to go ahead and scrape some of this crud off of here, and then wipe that down with the brake cleaner and make sure it's nice and clean surface for the new gasket to mate to. And then go ahead and put the chain on. And then tensioner is just a lot easier to do before you get the chain in the way. So now we're on the right bank, bank 1. Timing mark here right by the R, the right bank. There's the left mark. It's wrong. You want to be over here on the right bank mark. Okay, and then we're going to put this on the sprocket down here. And this sprocket, you basically just want it to line up with this window right here. So as long as it's level with this window hole right there, it should be good to go. Sorry, lighting's a little funky, but yeah, you just want it to be right on that sprocket right there. Like that too. So then you should be good. I'm just going to hold this together like this until I get the guide on here and some tension on this chain so it doesn't move on me. Alright, so we got the guides in. I lubricated them with some grease. Same here with the tensioner guide. Triple check your timing marks down here. Looks good. It's lined up with the window. Right. Down here, up here we got the right side mark. We got the right side mark. And then we're going to go ahead and put some tension on this thing. Once again, check your marks. Looks good. 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 And pull the pin. And then make sure that's tight. And then the springs will take over from there. Now it's cleanup time. We're going to go clean up the timing cover. Pound in some new seals. And then remove this 19 bolt so we can get the timing cover on, of course. And then I'm going to clean this out. I'll show you guys how to do that real easy. And then we should be ready to put the timing cover back on. And then we'll clean up the valve covers a little bit more. And we'll put that together. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed part 2. We're going to move on to part 3 here. Part 3 is going to involve basically putting everything back together in reverse order of part 1. Maybe a few extra pointers and tips to make the job go sooner. And if you guys don't remember how everything came apart because there's a lot of parts, sequentially this will show you in order how to put things back together, so you're not taking stuff back off and putting it back on because you don't remember what went first. So this is kind of a helper for that point. And a couple of tricks to reinstall the crankshaft pulley, some small stuff like that, you guys will find pretty useful. So stay tuned for part 3. Thanks for watching part 2. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my page if you want to see the rest of this video when it's released, part 3. And then also any other videos that may pertain to any kind of repairs or money saving tips that you may find useful in your everyday life. Thanks for watching, guys.